Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2017 movie titled The Marine 5 Battleground. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. On a moonless night on the fringes of Los Angeles, a raucous gang of bikers revs their engines and drinks heavily inside a dilapidated bar. They are not just any gang, they are the most feared street predators in all of California. Merciless and brutal, their fierce loyalty binds them together, and they would go to any lengths to protect one another, ruthlessly eliminating any threat to their pride and honor in the blink of an eye. Outside the bar, the low hum of an engine barely breaks the stillness, while inside, two men, Cole and Taylor, sit in tense silence. These hired assassins have been dispatched by an anonymous employer with a singular, chilling mission: eliminate the gang's formidable leader. Cole's gaze drifts uneasily to a worn photograph of his wife and young daughter, a poignant reminder of what he stands to lose. A heavy weight settles in his chest, an unsettling intuition whispering that this mission is destined for disaster. After what feels like an eternity, the target finally emerges. Rodrigo, the ruthless leader of the biker gang, strides casually down the street, blissfully unaware that a pickup truck is tailing him with deadly intent. In a flash, Taylor springs into action. The crack of his gunshot shatters the night air, and Rodrigo collapses, lifeless. Inside the bar, chaos erupts as gang members spill out, guns blazing, their fury unleashed at the sight of their fallen leader. Cole and Taylor scramble for their lives as bullets rain down on their truck, transforming the night into a violent maelstrom. Vincent, the gang's vice president, witnesses the murder of his leader and is consumed by a seething rage. He vows to exact revenge, swearing to hunt down the men who have ignited this massacre. Meanwhile, Cole, barely clinging to life with gunshot wounds riddling his body, manages to wrench himself from the chaos. He slams the truck to a halt in front of a dimly lit basement parking lot. As pain engulfs him, he realizes Taylor is gone. Knowing he is next on the Legion's hit list, Cole frantically contacts the nearest hospital, pleading for help. With grim determination, he pulls into the shadows of the parking lot, acutely aware that the gang will not rest until he is silenced. In an ambulance en route to the hospital, Jake and Zoe are nearing the end of their shift. Jake, a former Marine Special Forces operative, carries an air of mystery. His distinguished service in Afghanistan and the Middle East is well known, yet the reasons behind his early retirement remain shrouded in secrecy. What is undeniable is that his reputation as a dependable medic has earned him deep respect among colleagues and patients alike. Moments later, the radio crackles to life with an unusual call, an urgent request for medical assistance from an unknown location within a theme park parking lot. No identity is given, just a desperate plea for help. Without hesitation, Jake and Zoe activate their sirens and speed toward the scene. Upon arrival, an unsettling atmosphere envelops them. The theme park isn't scheduled to open for another week. Why would anyone be here? The eerie silence only deepens their suspicions, amplifying their sense that something sinister lurks just beyond their view. As they approach the entrance to the basement parking garage, an air of tension thickened around them. The ambulance, too tall to pass under the low barrier, forced Jake and Zoe to make the decision to proceed on foot. The vast expanse of the basement was unsettlingly quiet, its dim lighting casting elongated shadows that danced ominously across the cold concrete floor. They moved cautiously, their senses heightened as they searched for the source of the distress call. However, as they ventured deeper into the oppressive silence, it became painfully clear that they were utterly alone. Jake's instincts flared, a sense of foreboding creeping over him. This situation felt wrong, almost like a trap. Just as they turned to leave, a faint sound pierced the stillness. An engine running, barely perceptible yet unmistakable. Without hesitation, Jake signaled for Zoe to follow him, and they hurried toward the noise. In a shadowy corner of the basement, they discovered a car parked haphazardly, its headlights casting a dim glow that barely illuminated the grim scene inside. A man lay slumped dead in the driver's seat, while another man, Cole, leaned against a concrete pillar, blood seeping from a gunshot wound to his abdomen. Cole's eyes widened in panic at their arrival, and his voice quivered as he implored Zoe not to call the police. He recounted a frantic tale of a scuffle with a motorcycle gang after inadvertently blocking their path. But Jake remained skeptical, his gaze fixed on the gun Cole clutched tightly, a detail that felt too convenient. This encounter reeked of something far more sinister, planned and violent, and Jake sensed that the truth was buried beneath layers of deception. The basement was enveloped in silence, yet the tension crackled in the air like static electricity. With no cell service to summon help, Jake and Zoe realized they were isolated and vulnerable. They resolved to return to the ambulance and use the radio, but just as Jake was about to step outside, a flicker of movement caught his attention. Several members of the biker gang entered the basement, Alonzo leading the charge, a man infamous for his brutality and merciless nature. Jake's heart raced as he turned to Zoe, understanding that they were now entangled in a deadly game. The gang was likely hunting Cole. Urgently, he dashed back to Cole's side, urging Zoe to leave at once. With adrenaline surging through their veins, they sped through the basement in a desperate bid for escape. But their flight was abruptly halted when they collided with Alonzo's gang, who wasted no time opening fire on their vehicle. The deafening sound of gunshots echoed through the confined space. In the chaos, Deacon, Alonzo's right-hand man, recognized the medic's intent to protect Cole and swiftly relayed this information to Alonzo. With a cold grin spreading across his face, Alonzo understood exactly what needed to be done. The two men advanced through the dimly lit basement, closing in on Jake's car. With no clear path for escape and the situation escalating rapidly, Jake and Zoe were left with no choice but to take the elevator. But as they reached it, their hopes were dashed by a glaring sign: out of order. They were trapped. Panic surged within them, but they fought to suppress it. Their only option now lay in the stairwell. They sprinted toward it, praying that ascending higher might grant them a cell signal and a chance at contacting help. Unbeknownst to them, Alonzo had caught wind of their movements and dispatched Deacon into the stairwell to pursue them while he took another route, positioning himself by the doors in anticipation of their escape. The relentless pursuit of the gang reverberated through the building like an ominous drumbeat, yet Jake and Zoe remained elusive. Soon enough, they found themselves standing at a door on the top floor, exchanging frustrated glances at their misfortune. The stairwell was empty, their target had vanished. Alonzo, now confident that Jake and Zoe were cornered like prey, wore a grim smile. They were out of options. He commanded Deacon and Murphy to disable the electrical panel, knowing that plunging them into darkness would force an even more desperate move from the medics. Meanwhile, in a moment of clarity amidst the chaos, Cole finally confessed the truth to Jake and Zoe. His face pale and drawn, he explained how he had been coerced into killing the leader of the Legion biker gang. His family had been threatened, leaving him no choice but to comply with their demands. Below, Jake swiftly entrusted Zoe with the critical task of ensuring Cole's safety while he dashed back to the car to retrieve the medical supplies he had hastily abandoned. Just as he reached for the equipment, Murphy emerged from the shadows, gun drawn and aimed squarely at him. Meanwhile, Zoe and Cole stumbled upon a room they hoped would provide refuge. Their fleeting sense of security shattered when they spotted Deacon lurking nearby, refusing to leave. Time was not on their side. Zoe understood the urgency of their predicament. Without a moment's hesitation, she urged Cole to slip into the room first, resolute in her decision to distract Deacon. But her brave attempt was futile. In a matter of moments, she found herself captured. As Jake entered the room, Cole's anguished voice froze him in his tracks. The news of Zoe's capture struck him like a physical blow, but before he could process the weight of that revelation, Cole grimaced in pain and issued a desperate plea for morphine to alleviate his suffering. For a brief moment, Jake hesitated, the gravity of their situation pressing heavily upon him. The clock was ticking, but as a medical professional, he could not turn a blind eye to Cole's agony. Taking a deep breath, he administered the morphine, fully aware that time was slipping away yet recognizing the profound importance of easing Cole's pain. Meanwhile, Alonzo and Deacon dragged Zoe into a makeshift command center, where she was coerced at gunpoint to contact the hospital. Her voice trembled as she fabricated reassurances to her colleagues, insisting that everything was fine, that there was no need for police involvement, and that they would be leaving shortly. Once the call concluded, Alonzo and Deacon unceremoniously returned her to the basement. From one floor above, Alonzo shouted down at Jake, his voice dripping with menace as he demanded Cole's surrender in exchange for Zoe's life. With Zoe's fate hanging precariously in the balance, Jake's mind raced through the dire circumstances. But then an idea flickered to life. The biker gang had never seen Cole's face, they only knew him as the man responsible for their leader's death. A plan began to crystallize in his mind. Turning toward Alonzo, Jake called out with unwavering resolve, "I'll give you Cole in exchange for Zoe." Alonzo's twisted grin revealed his delight at the proposition as he immediately radioed Vincent, the gang's vice president, to announce that they had their target. Seizing the opportunity while Alonzo was distracted, Jake snatched Cole's jacket and draped it over Taylor's lifeless body, arranging it to create the illusion that Cole had succumbed to blood loss. He shattered the lights in the room, leaving only a solitary dim bulb flickering ominously above Taylor's body. Concealed in the shadows, Jake waited with bated breath, knowing that the limited visibility would grant him an edge. Moments later, Alonzo and Deacon entered the room, their eyes drawn inevitably to Taylor's body. They believed they had finally cornered Cole, the elusive target of their relentless pursuit. Eager to conclude their mission, they turned to leave, convinced their job was finished. But just as they began to move away, Jake froze in disbelief. Alonzo had halted at the end of the hallway, a chilling smile spreading across his face. In an instant, He raised his gun and fired. The deafening shot echoed through the air, and Zoe collapsed, her life extinguished in an instant. Time seemed to stand still as Jake felt the impact of that moment hit him like a lightning bolt, rendering him immobile. He had just witnessed the brutal loss of Zoe, his friend, felled by a single merciless bullet. The weight of her death crushed him under its enormity. Barely escaping Alonzo and Deacon's relentless pursuit, Jake found himself alone, his gun now emptied save for a solitary bullet. The grim reality struck him hard, one bullet left and a gang of bikers still on his trail. The odds felt insurmountable, and a sense of hopelessness began to gnaw at his resolve. Meanwhile, Alonzo met with Vincent, the gang's vice president, a twisted pride illuminating his features as he boasted about their success in eliminating their target. Yet when Vincent inquired if both targets were truly dead, Alonzo's confidence faltered. A chilling dread coursed through him as Vincent revealed that the assassins who had taken down their leader were two individuals, not just one. Panic surged within Alonzo as the truth dawned upon him. He had overlooked a critical detail. Vincent's piercing gaze bore into him, his simmering anger barely contained. Alonzo stood helpless and exposed, realizing too late the magnitude of his oversight, feeling the weight of Vincent's disappointment pressing down on him. At that moment, Jake was sprinting back to the car when a sharp crack pierced the air. A bullet from Deacon narrowly missed him. Reacting instinctively, he dove behind a car for cover. With no time to lose, he surged forward and landed a powerful punch that sent Deacon staggering back. The two became locked in a brutal struggle, and Jake quickly found himself teetering on the edge of exhaustion. Just as Deacon reached for an axe, Jake braced himself for the worst, feeling utterly powerless. But then, in a flash of hope, Cole appeared, tackling Deacon to the ground and ensuring he was incapacitated. The two battered men made their way back to the basement, only to discover members of the Legion gang pouring into the area, each one heavily armed and ready for whatever lay ahead. At the forefront stood Vincent, declaring himself the new leader of the gang. He swiftly organized his forces, assigning tasks and preparing for an inevitable confrontation. Alonzo's team, 3 hardened gang members, was dispatched to search the lift area. Unbeknownst to them, Jake was hidden inside, desperately trying to fix the elevator while inadvertently drawing attention with the noise he was making. The sound caught Alonzo's ear, setting off alarms in his mind as he realized that their precarious situation was far from over. Without a moment's hesitation, one of Alonzo's men approached the lift, brandishing a knife in a futile attempt to pry open the door. Alonzo, exuding a calm yet unwavering determination, swiftly directed another member to access the lift shaft from above. Meanwhile, Jake, now positioned higher in the shaft, heard the ominous footsteps drawing near and understood that time was not on his side. When the gang member finally appeared, a fierce confrontation erupted. Jake poured every ounce of strength into the struggle, ultimately overpowering his adversary and leaving him incapacitated. With urgency propelling him forward, Jake took the emergency exit and descended deeper into the bowels of the building, resolute in his mission to repair the lift's electrical system. Once the repairs were completed, Jake activated the lift, sending it on its ascent to the top floor, his sole avenue of escape. As the lift climbed, he felt a mix of hope and dread. The door at the top would lead him directly into the theme park, but Alonzo was hot on his trail. Realizing Jake's intentions, Alonzo quickly radioed Vincent, demanding reinforcements at the top floor. Meanwhile, he and his loyal companion Gunnar raced up the stairs, intent on intercepting Jake before he could slip away. Upon reaching their destination, Alonzo and Gunnar were met with an unsettling sight. Cole's EV drip lay abandoned, a haunting reminder of his sudden disappearance. The eerie silence amplified their tension, compelling Alonzo to make a swift decision. With no other leads to follow, he instructed Gunnar to venture into the haunted house attraction, hoping it might yield some crucial information. Inside the dark, twisting corridors of the haunted house, Gunnar moved cautiously, completely unaware of Jake's presence lurking nearby. Suddenly, a gunshot shattered the stillness, reverberating through the attraction. Alonzo's heart raced as he attempted to reach Gunnar via radio, only to hear Jake's voice crackle through instead. Cold and unyielding, Jake informed Alonzo that Gunnar was dead and that he had taken all of his weapons. The weight of this loss crashed over Alonzo like a tidal wave, further unraveling his grip on the situation. After dispatching Gunnar, Jake made his way toward the park area, steeling himself for the next confrontation. As he emerged from the haunted house, he opened fire on the approaching gang members with lethal accuracy. Yet chaos loomed. Alonzo spotted Cole staggering in a different direction, a golden opportunity presenting itself. With Cole gravely wounded and vulnerable, incapacitating him would be easy. Cole stood paralyzed, the cold steel of a gun barrel inches from his face, trembling as fear coursed through him. With a shaky breath, he attempted to explain himself, his voice barely rising above a whisper. He revealed that he had been coerced into killing the gang leader under threat to his family's safety. But before anyone could process this revelation, the sound of footsteps echoed ominously in the distance, signaling that the storm was far from over. Vincent arrived with the last two remaining gang members, and Cole's eyes widened in disbelief as he recognized him, the very man who had ordered him to kill their leader. A chilling silence enveloped Alonzo, Deacon, and the others as the weight of betrayal settled in. They had never imagined that Vincent, the embodiment of loyalty, would turn against them in pursuit of his own ambition. In a calculated move, Vincent had orchestrated a plan to seize control of the gang, manipulating Cole as a mere pawn in his ruthless game. In an instant, Alonzo's rage erupted. Fueled by betrayal and anguish, he plunged a knife deep into Vincent's abdomen without a moment's hesitation. The others, caught in the whirlwind of emotions, followed suit, including Vincent's own brother, who stood momentarily paralyzed by shock before joining the fray. As Vincent collapsed, lifeless on the ground, Alonzo and his crew turned their fury toward Cole. Yet before they could execute their grim intentions, the piercing wail of an ambulance siren sliced through the tense atmosphere, sending a shiver down their spines. The driver was none other than Jake, their former target, now barreling toward them with reckless abandon. Jake slammed his foot on the accelerator, the ambulance lurching forward as he sped away from the chaos. Inside, Cole slumped in the passenger seat, his wounds grave and life-threatening. Just as they neared the edge of danger, one of Alonzo's men lunged into the back of the vehicle, attacking Cole with unbridled ferocity. Jake's heart raced as he shouted for Cole to grab the seatbelt behind him, urging him to use it as a shield against the impending onslaught. Despite his weakened state, Cole managed to grasp the seatbelt, desperately trying to fend off his assailant. But just when escape seemed within reach, disaster struck. The engine sputtered and died, leaving the ambulance stranded in front of an empty building. With no time to lose, Jake wrestled Cole out of the vehicle, struggling under the weight of his injured companion as he rushed toward shelter inside the building. Unyielding even in the face of despair, Alonzo was not about to relent. Spotting the ambulance parked outside, he pressed on with grim determination to finish what he had started. Inside the building, Jake braced himself for confrontation. He quickly found cover behind a concrete pillar, positioning Cole out of sight just as he heard footsteps echoing up the stairs. Alonzo was closing in. Jake tightened his grip on his weapon, steeling himself to prevent Alonzo from advancing any further. Moments later, reality hit hard. His gun was empty, and Cole's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Without hesitation, Jake moved Cole to a safer location within the building, his mind racing with urgency. Utilizing the rooftop signal, he called for an ambulance and police support, praying they would arrive in time to save Cole from the clutches of fate. Meanwhile, Alonzo, also out of ammunition but fueled by an unwavering resolve to complete his mission, refused to back down. His anger and thirst for revenge blazed brighter than ever, propelling him forward with a singular focus. He charged up the stairs, his eyes locked onto his target with unyielding intensity. This time, he was convinced that victory would finally be his. Cole, battered and barely able to stand, could only resign himself to the grim fate that awaited him. The sight of Cole's struggle ignited a fierce sense of superiority within Alonzo, who followed closely behind, relishing every faltering step the injured man took. The end seemed inevitable, a cruel conclusion drawing near. Just as Alonzo prepared to hurl Cole from the building, Jake emerged unexpectedly, his presence a jarring shock to Alonzo. For a fleeting moment, Jake contemplated offering assistance, recognizing the man before him teetering on the edge of collapse. Yet Alonzo, ever the opportunist, sensed Jake's hesitation and was poised to exploit it. But Jake was not one to linger in indecision. In an instant, he sprang into action with brutal efficiency, taking Alonzo down before the threat could materialize. With the Legion gang dismantled, Jake carefully hoisted Cole out of the building, their escape narrowly timed. Moments later, the wail of sirens filled the air as the ambulance and police arrived. After recounting the harrowing events to the authorities, Jake stood by as medics tended to Cole's injuries. In a poignant gesture, he retrieved the family photo from his pocket, the same one that had fallen in the basement earlier. Though he had saved Cole's life, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on him. He handed the photo to Cole and offered a quiet but firm piece of advice: you need to turn yourself in. Face the consequences of what happened. As Jake turned to walk away, the final scene unfolded, a haunting reminder that every choice carries a price, echoing in the silence left behind. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.